with the front and back and this really beautiful bent plywood texture at the sides, it's now time to go back and take a look at how we can texture actually our Boolean cuts. So I turned the Boolean modifier on, and when we rotate our view, we can see that they're actually textured, but not with the correct texture. And then even the orientation here is not really the way how I want this to be. So I will introduce you in this video now how we not only can use a trim object and together with the Boolean modifier to cut geometry away, but then also place a texture onto the cut surface. That's kind of like the artistic, interesting benefit of this process. Because when we move the trim object, the texture will follow with it. Let's do this first. We will select these two objects, Control C, Control V, and then M. We make a new collection. We can call this trim textured. Okay, so you see it made a copy, put those into this collection. And because this is very specific to chair 2, we can just put this into chair 2. Here, this we can hide for the moment. And since this was actually shared by all, I will move this one to there. Very good. So I'm cleaning up my scene a little bit. Let's go to our object here, and we will turn this off since we will use this now. Okay, so trim textured. Very good. Let's select one of these objects. Go to material, give this a material, and pick whatever you want. Same here. For example, one process is, you can call this Boolean, and maybe I make this a nice red color. Then I hide this, and yeah, nothing really changed. Well, so I show you now how we can make the red color pop up at all the cut surfaces. The red color was associated to these geometry objects, which we will use to cut the space away. But when we select this object, there's no indicator for the material. Well, very easy. Click another slot and then add this material. That's it. You see, this is actually pretty cool. Stylistically, we could even keep it this way. Now, let's say all the cut surfaces we would like to look red. So during a manufacturing process, that might be spray painted red. Kind of like to just put an emphasis to these cut surfaces, or we could change the color of these cut objects to make it black or so. Okay, very good. And just to show you how this works, this object now I will make wire. There we are. So even when we move this around, you see the material follows with it. How cool is that? So now going in edit mode, changing the texture and having a UV unwrap and all that stuff. In this case, to visualize a cut section with a color, we can just simply use this process. Now, in our case, let's undo the step, because here we would like, obviously, our bent plywood veneer to run around. So to speed up everything a little bit, I will turn off this calculation. So now I can modify those geometry objects much faster, because Blender does not all the time try to recalculate the Boolean command. So our goal is where we have this surface cut open, I would like to see exactly the same layer of plywood. So this means this object we have to texture and ideally get the same layers in. To do this, let's move this one close to there, and this one I move close to there. Try to make sure that the piece sticks through the inside. Let's move this in there. Very good. Okay, then maybe to help a little bit and to have less work, let's select these front faces and we can delete them. Because this, think about this as a cookie cutter knife. This is a closed surface, so you could just push this through the wood and it would cut the piece out. So if we go back to here one more time, there you see it now. It does the opening. Okay, so this one is good. Now, next step, we select it. We will change the material from Boolean, actually in this case here, to Plywood. And let's take a look. Yeah, it is unwrapped, but not really in a good way. Let's see, which one is it? Shell, yeah, shell texture there. There you can see the orientation. All this is kind of wrong. So I could go ahead and try to. So this one is good. This one, however, is wrong. R90. Now I have to adjust this. Try to figure out where's this one. So it's way too complicated, no? Okay, so select everything, you unwrap, but then we get this this thing, which is kind of pointless. We need to turn this into a band. Now, a little trick. Somewhere, think about it as a strip. We have a start and an end of texture or veneer we glue in there. And we want to hide the seam. We will see the bottom part very often, not really the top area during rendering. So I will Control R, click and right click, add an edge, Control E, and select Mark Seam, or Edge, Mark Seam, A, U, unwrap. You see now this is a band. Perfect. Here, A, R90 in the UV editor. There we are. Very good. Cool. Now, you guessed it, our next step only is to try to figure out how can we ideally make a match. So there are various methods how we can try to do this. The easiest one is have both objects selected in object mode. So the trim object and the shell. Then press tab because we go into edit mode. And there you see both meshes for the UV editor. Very easy. AA, L, G, and Y. Bring this up. And then S and Y. Ooh, careful. S and Y and S and Y. There. Scale them up. So they will ideally overlap as perfect as possible. Okay, very good. Leave edit mode. I will select this collection and hide it, and then I turn my Boolean command back on. There we are. Yeah, cool. From a distance. Does this actually match up with the lines? So there's a thin one. There's a thin one. Yeah, maybe actually not 100%, because this is an arced surface, and then here this is a linear surface. Now you can already see that it's particular there to there, something seems off. This is something we can fix. if we want to. When we keep it like this right now, you see from a distance or so, this maybe is a detail the person might not see. So this is kind of like stage 1. We'll keep it at this for the moment. So let's go to trim 2. So there we have this one. Here we'll do the same thing. I will select these edges and just remove them so it's easy to look into. Yeah, dissolve. Very good. So because this is I'm actually in local mode, I can very easily move this in. Alt click, select all these edges, move them in, and I try to get really close. Yeah, and we start noticing maybe a slight problem. That whole thing needs to be rotated more, but along what axis? I would say the z-axis. Maybe take more. And then I pay attention to here and here, how this lines up. So maybe a little bit there. Okay. And let's do actually one thing for the moment I would like to try out. Make this all 0. Just want to see if this mesh is all straight. It actually is. So you see X and X and Y. This is all good. So the what I wanted to double check is if maybe this rotation I see here is if this is also what I have inside the mesh. I do. So the mesh is not distorted, which means I can simply focus on the trying to rotate everything here. No, this rotation point is kind of like not really in the center. That's not necessarily good. So we'll go into edit mode, select this edge and this edge, Shift S. No, X and delete. One more time, Shift S, or I press Shift D, Shift S, cursor to selected. And then in object mode, right click, origin to 3D cursor. Very good. So now I have this a little bit more centered, which hopefully helps me when I do a rotation or moving, making this, yeah, I see now this is easier to perfect. Good. Back to edit mode. Alt click this, move this in. Alt click this, move this in. Try to get this really, really tight. So here this is centered. There it's not centered. Little trick. So this edge, Shift S, cursor to selected. And then in object mode, we switch this to 3D cursor. And let's see, so it would be the y-axis. Rotate along y, hold shift, so we can do a really nice and gentle rotation. There. Okay. This looks pretty good. Very nice. So here now we do the same. Actually, these two edges, we can simplify this a little bit. These two edges, we select edge and then mark seam. Then we select this, and this face. U and unwrap. Very good. It's somewhere there. A, R, and 90. Move this to here for the moment. And then these two faces here, 3 faces, I can also, if I want, unwrap. AR90. For the moment, I'll put them down to here. Those, while unwrapped, we won't really use actually for the cutting. So meaning I don't have to pay attention to texture those correctly. These 5 faces cut through the object, so there the texturing has to be good. Okay, so here the same object, we give this material. Then let's do a quick check how this looks. Trim textured. Yep, okay, so the piece is gone. That's very good. I'll turn this off. So again, I can now go in, have this selected, and tab. And now I select this face, here, you. There they are. G and Y. Select this one there. G and Y. S and Y. Okay, good. So by having made this face in the UV editor the same scale than the other face, we have the problem that while in real life actually this one has to be bigger. So you see this, the texture does not match up correctly. Because again, this in relationship to here needs to have the same size or width than this related to this one. So this task now is actually going to be a little bit more tricky. To line up the flow perfectly, ideally we want to, well, let me say it this way. To do this perfectly, this shape has to be cut out and applied, so we have actual geometry, so I could unwrap everything at once. But here we will use this technique to preview it, and all I need to do to make this look good is try to figure out that how this one is unwrapped and scaled is equal to here, and then the veneer lines up better. So there's this one. Okay, so I want to make one little check here. I press A for both, and then G and Y, and I want to get this, or G and Y, I want to get this piece in. Okay, so I see this is the bottom. So this longer face, the bottom point, is really also the bottom. How is this actually for my piece? Okay, so this is also the bottom. Or is it? So yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Oh no, hold on. So you see there are multiple elements there. Very good. So let me undo, and I will show actually this one here too. So I pressed undo 2 times, so everything is back to where it should be. Very good. I can hide this. Now I can see on, so I can see that actually already. You see here, this is darker. This edge here is darker, which means this is rotated. So when I press G and Y, this will be there. So to fix this, mirror and Y. So this is really the bottom part, this is the top, or left and right, left and right. There you can see this one is there. Yeah. Good. That makes it a lot easier. Now, this is all actually correct. So I select here all these faces plus this one, and then I go into textured mode. I made sure that here the geometry, all the lines are along the y-axis correct, so that this bottom edge here is the left side, and for this long strip the bottom edge is the left side. And now I can try to see, okay, so there seems to be actually, you see this is a match. So maybe this is still, however, not matching perfectly. S and Y, I'm scaling this a little bit more, and they're already getting very close to it. So now I'm using my eye a little bit, G and Y, and whoa, there we are. Okay. Cool. Let's see how, whoa, this is actually impressive how I rotated actually I rotated this object really precise. I did not expect this to line up so good, but you can even see here how all these lines line up really good. So when we hide this one, go to here and then turn this on, trim textured. Let's take a look. Oh, look at that. There's still a tiny offset. Now you can see that there. And here, this is pretty much flawless. This runs anyway. This is fine. But yeah, so here we can see, or that's actually a point where we could say, well, something is kind of off. So to do this, to fix this, the scale of the texture is unwrapped correctly. Now what we need to do is click this. So actually, hold on, no, not while we do this. You notice how this actually went really slow, so I'm turning this off. And now we just rotate the object till there. Where is it? There. Okay. Very good. So this part is done. We don't need to show this. This is the only area where we have a little bit of an issue, and that is because now we have this texturing, and then here this is a flat piece, this is an arc, so it does not line up. It's actually easy to try to fix, so we add a loop cut there too. Select these two, go then to move command, back to bounding box. Okay, move this one in a little bit if I want to. There. Let's turn this off, go to here, object mode, select the chair, turn this on, and now there you see how this follows it more correctly. If we really zoom in, we can see how wrong this is, because actually the object we created to cut, this is like a triangle. Now, this should ideally be rounded. I could fix this, but honestly, I in this case would not do this, because I would not show a rendering from here. I would show it more from a distance, and from that distance, that inaccuracy you don't see anymore. Very good. And this basically is everything I wanted to show you, how to create beautifully textured and aligned Boolean objects. either with a basic color, or in this case, we textured it the same way with the plywood, and then we rotate and unwrap the geometry accordingly so that we can match up all these edges and have actually a pretty realistic and very convincing material representation of that this whole thing is bent plywood, and then these things are just cut through it and show the material that's inside.